Well, here we are. Approximately 1 year after the release of Nintendo's first wave of Smash Bros. Amiibo. Did it do well?
You're darn tootin'.
Yeah, it's definitely well known at this point that Amiibo have been Nintendo's best-selling new product since the Wii, and it also had the demand issues to match. But nowadays it seems like the initial momentum has slowed, and most folks are swearing they're going to end the cycle once the Smash line is complete, which should be any day now. In this episode of Amiibo Facts and Theories, we're ditching wave monikers and labels and talking about the DLC Amiibo, the future of the figures, and if the Amiibo fad is completely dead. At this point in time, all 49 characters from the launch roster have been turned into a plastic figure. On top of this, we've also had our first DLC character release in the form of the Mewtwo Amiibo, which came out on November 20th along with Falco in North American markets. We've also seen the launch of the Yarn Yoshi Amiibo, the first Animal Crossing wave, and the first wave of Animal Crossing cards, which have performed incredibly well in their own right. But this leaves that original Smash line with only 3 more figures. Okay, 4 more figures. Okay, so in all honesty, the Smash line still has a way to go, but here's what we do know. The Lucas Amiibo will be making its North American debut on January 22nd, along with Wave 2 of Animal Crossing. And after this, we don't really know too much. We know for certain that Roy and Ryu will be releasing sometime during early 2016, with Roy being a GameStop exclusive. It's also highly likely that Ryu and Roy will be releasing during the same month, but beyond that, Amiibo information is pretty limited right now. I expect this all to change during the special Smash Bros. Direct coming sometime this December, where I'd wager we'll hear confirmation on the aforementioned DLC Fighters release dates, as well as confirmation that a Cloud Amiibo is incoming, along with any new character reveals that may occur. And don't worry, Final Fantasy fans, there will 100% be a Cloud Amiibo joining your collection. There's just nothing cemented at this point in time. So this leaves us with the biggest question of all. Is the Amiibo fad over? Well, first, let's define what a fad even is, and see if Amiibo fits into the right category. Well, according to NPR's Planet Money, a fad or bubble has 3 primary stages. The first is the release, where typically a product is launched under the radar. This aligns pretty well with the potential Amiibo bubble, as during the first few weeks of launch, you could pretty much find any of the first 12 Amiibo. And if you're sitting there yelling at your computer that you couldn't find a Marth a week after launch, then you need to remember that the first 3 waves were all made available to pre-order for more than 3 months before each respective wave launched in stores. And that's both online and in physical stores like Toys R Us. There was ample time to get a Marth, Villager, and even a little Mac or Ike months before prices skyrocketed. Which brings us to the next stage of the bubble. No matter how much you pay, someone will always pay more. This is probably the one that affected Amiibo sales the most, as certain figures such as the Holy Trinity began slowly appreciating in value due to the unmet demand in the marketplace. Eventually, one could sell a Villager for 10 times the retail price on third-party sites such as eBay, and that sadly became the norm for far too long. But then we entered the third stage of this hypothetical bubble, which is the burst. A burst occurs when too many people get over the original product and simply move on to another fad. This can be caused by something as simple as acceptance, or in the case of Amiibo, restocks and supply aligning closer with rabid demand. The difference between Amiibo and another fad like that of Beanie Babies is that a typical bubble usually lasts a minimum of 2 years. Amiibo, on the other hand, seems to have gone through that exact same 3 stages in half of the time. Personally, I believe the answer is simple. Nintendo caught on way too quickly. It's obvious that Amiibo at its peak, right around the launch of Wave 4 with Lucina and Robin, was a fad. In fact, it was at this point that it reached its critical mass. Now, I'm sure there's still a few people watching who will aggressively deny that Amiibo was ever supposed to be a fad in the first place, and to that I say you're absolutely right, because no company wants a bubble to burst. I'm serious. Time Warner Inc., the company behind Beanie Babies, never wanted their premier product to be hot for 2 years and then become practically worthless a decade later. That causes layoffs, that causes surplus, and that causes insurmountable debt. When consumers get fed up or have demand overly met, the impulsive buying stops, and that causes losses for any company. This is why businesses like Wizards of the Coast did everything in their power to ensure Magic the Gathering wasn't just a fad. Essentially, it's better to make $50 million over 10 years than $10 million in 2 because something got hot. In other words, go for the marathon, not the sprint, which is exactly what Nintendo is doing. By slowly re-releasing valuable figures back into the marketplace, they're manually trying to kill the fad and give consumers the power again. Now, they're not dumb enough to stock every store's shelves with 100 villagers and Lucinas, because that would cost them money in the long run and completely halt Amiibo momentum immediately afterwards. My point is, Amiibo was 100% a fad that got lightning hot, lightning quick, and met all 3 criteria to the T. But that fad hasn't burst or died. Nintendo's simply making sure that they have enough energy and resources left to complete that marathon, rather than simply being the modern Beanie Baby. Yes, scalpers can't make 500% markup on a Wii Fit trainer anymore, but you know what? That's a good thing, because in the long run, you the consumer will be happier, and Nintendo will make a profit for years to come. So yeah, Amiibo was a fad, and in terms of overwhelming demand, the bubble certainly has burst, but what saved the Toy to Life line was Nintendo intervening and evolving from just a hot fad into a profitable toy company, which is actually what Nintendo's been amazing at for over 200 years. And besides, just wait until they finally reveal those Pokemon Amiibo that are in the works. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Amiibo Facts and Theories, and don't worry, it's not our last. If you enjoyed this episode and learned something about fads, then make sure you share this episode with your friends. Also, follow us on Twitter at RandomTens for more Amiibo news. And if you're really interested in that Pokemon idea concept, then we have a whole video detailing the process. And finally, as I always say, happy hunting, baby rhinos. You're darn tootin'.
That's awesome.